Hi, my name is Alexandra Rota. Welcome back to another Women in Business interview. My guest today is Sina Maria Nöding. She is actually still studying the full-time Master Management program, so I'm excited to not only talk about her career today, but also her study experience at HHL. Thank you so much for joining us, Sina. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Hi, Alexandra. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure.
I'm glad we get to talk today, and I'm also excited that you're actually studying right now. And I know you have a lot of work experience prior to joining the program. But let's start, because this is still so fresh for you. I want to go back to the decision of studying at HHL to kind of get an understanding where you came from, what brought you here before we dive deeper into what you're doing today. So the first question for me would really be, what made you choose HHL? Because of course, there's always a big selection out there, and I'd love to hear what ultimately led you to us.
Well, that's a really, really good question to start with. So, to be honest, in the end, let's start with that was just a gut feeling. Because, of course, as you just mentioned, there is a lot of decision making, there are a lot of choices out there, and you have to decide between a lot of really good business schools. But all that matters in the end, at least from my point of perspective, was the gut feeling, what actually feels right in this kind of moment. And I was kind of struggling to do my decisions, and I took like a week to think, okay, where do I want to go? Where do I actually see myself? And let's say, what kind of people do I want to surround myself at this time? I had really good support from HHL admission committee, because every time I called them and I had a couple of questions, they took the time, they answered each single question. As we remember last year, during springtime, it was a special time because of the pandemic that was just starting, and there was a lot of uncertainty, and no one had an idea, okay, could this be an online program? Could I actually move to Leipzig? So many thoughts that came up during this time in my head, and I had to organize myself. So what I actually did is I talked to a lot of people, I communicated, I searched for HHL alumni on LinkedIn, and also a couple of friends gave me a couple of numbers. So I tried to talk to a lot of people, get their opinions, and actually strengthens my own opinion. So this is how I ended up at HHL, because of alumni and about a really, really good admission process.
I've actually heard a lot of stories of people being influenced by other HHL alumni, and that's always nice to hear that the community lives on outside or after graduation. A question that I think would also be interesting for many is that you've decided to study the full-time Master Management program, and there is also a part-time program. I know you worked prior to joining us. Why did you decide on the full-time program?
So actually, first of all, why did I see HHL? Because of the part-time program. But after a while, I decided that I want to join the full-time master because I wanted to change my environment. I wanted to surround myself with ambitious and motivated people. I wanted to get out of my comfort zone and actually leave a corporate environment to focus 100% on one thing, and yeah, to get the full experience. And in order to really get the full experience, I knew that I had to leave my comfort zone and join the full-time master. Previously, I also studied like a dual program. So I always had to focus 50% on work and 50% on my bachelor degree. And it was a very good and also helpful experience. But now I wanted to change something and experience something new. So that's why I decided now it's time for the next step and join the full-time master program.
I think it actually must have worked to your advantage, because I know that you ended up being the head of the energy conference, a position that of course comes with a lot of responsibility and a lot of work that you might have not been able to put in as well if you'd still been working part-time. The position is really interesting, not just because, of course, being head of one of the student initiatives at HHL comes with many exciting experiences, but also because you'd mentioned when we talked previously that that was actually not a position that you were going for originally. So why don't you share a bit of the story about what brought you to the energy conference, a little bit maybe what it is, and how you ended up in the position you are in today?
Yes, of course. So let's start like this. Once you start to actually search for a business school, of course, a lot of student initiatives also pop up in the marketing part, on websites, on Instagram, everywhere. And I've seen that HHL offers a lot of really cool and interesting initiatives. And it wasn't an easy choice in the beginning. But in the beginning of the year, the previous groups of initiatives always present their responsibilities, their challenges, their learnings. And somehow the previous class convinced me to join the energy conference. And I thought it's a topic and also a possibility to really create and make an impact. So for me, the decision was quickly made, okay, I want to join the energy conference. But I wanted to take over a responsibility, that's for sure. But at first, to be honest, I didn't want to go for the head position, like the total head position. I thought, okay, maybe finance and operations could be a nice thing to do. But I wasn't sure if I was actually brave enough to take over the full responsibility for an entire team. Because as you know, it's about leadership, handling a lot of things at once. So I wasn't sure if I could really handle it along with the, let's say, famous HHL workload. But again, once I started to talk to my fellow students and friends and communicated that I was actually interested in joining such a position, they motivated me. And they said, Sina, I could see you there. You should do it. Let's give it a try. Be brave. And I mean, it's all about learning. So all of us would actually do one or two mistakes. But after you've done a mistake, you're going to learn from it again. So I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a try. And during the elections, I got enough votes to take over this head position. And this is how I ended up being the head of the conference for the energy conference. And let's say one or two main takeaways from this time was that sharing is caring, because all of the initiatives had this year this, let's say, problem, or all of us faced the challenge of transferring a normal conference to a digital one. So we shared a lot of information, a lot of ideas, and communicated a lot, which in the end helped all of HHL initiatives, not just one. So what all of us learned this year was that actually you're going to win if you create synergies and if you're going to share information and your key learnings.
I'm glad you told that story because it shows, I think, two things. One, that oftentimes we don't want to maybe apply for things that we don't think we already know how to do, which is ironic sometimes because, of course, we're supposed to grow in those positions. If if we knew everything already, how boring would that be? And also that you don't always have to do it all alone. Of course, there's responsibility that you take, but there are possibilities that often open up, like you were just explaining, where actually you work with other people and become stronger that way. Nevertheless, I do know that that little voice of like, am I really good enough, is so present in many situations. I have it. I think all of the women I've talked to have mentioned it at some point. I know that we can't like make it go away, so that it's our job to find ways how we can kind of work with it and turn it around so that it starts helping us again. What has helped you? What's made that little voice a little quieter for you?
Well, that's such a good point you're mentioning. All of us have this kind of voice. Sometimes it's a super quiet voice, but sometimes it comes up and it's actually screaming at you, no, you can't do this. So something I really learned during HHL is you think you know your limits, but sometimes you just don't. And you're surprised about how much you can actually handle and what kind of challenges you're able to face. And in the end, what kind of problems you're going to solve. So I think during some of the moments, all of us don't really realize how much power and energy we are having. So sometimes you underestimate yourself. And I think especially for women, this is sometimes a thing we are struggling with. And it's so important to overcome this kind of boundaries and doubts every one of us is having. So what helped me personally is communicating, because when I talked to my friends at university, or also to one of my mentors I'm having for so many years, they encouraged me again and said, hey, be brave, let's give it a try, you don't have something to actually lose. So in the end, I think something that's super important is it's all about trying.
I agree. It really comes down to that. And sometimes it's not the answer you want to hear, but it's worked for you, it's worked for me, and I hope it will work for some of the people listening today too. You mentioned a mentor, and that's actually something I want to talk to you about, because I think also the concept of having a mentor is something that's becoming very more like getting larger awareness, and can be extremely helpful. And I know for you especially, you found it invaluable to have someone by your side to help you, especially in business related questions. But as you found out, not necessarily only, because kind of business goes over into life and back and forth. So because I remember the story being quite unique, and you said it was so helpful, I'd love to hear again, who is this mentor you found, and how has she helped you specifically in your business journey so far?
Yeah, so as you just said, how she helped me. So in the beginning, I didn't even realize that this is some kind of a mentorship, because we just started to have frequent exchanges and lunch dates at some time during my apprenticeship. So it's been like almost 7 years ago already. And I thought it's just normal to have some kind of exchange once in a while. But somehow she guided me, because when I had a challenging situation, or I didn't know what to do or which path to take, I just started to talk to her naturally, and I was asking for advice. But once in a while, I realized while I was talking, I already knew the answer, or I already knew the way I wanted to go to. So what she, as my mentor, did is guiding me, finding my right path to take. And it was a natural relationship that was just coming up, because once in a while, this person used to be one of my former bosses, and we got along very well. So we just started to stay in contact and keep in touch, and yeah, share interesting articles, share interesting podcasts or books. Once in a while, I just had to think about her and thought, okay, I'm just going to give her a call. So one advice that I could give you, not you, but today's listeners, is if you have an inspiring person in your environment, keep her or keep him. It's super important, because those kind of relationships are going to support you through your entire life if it's actually a good relationship. And I'm super thankful for this person, because without her, I don't know if I would be actually studying today at HHL, because again, there was this little voice coming up in my head saying, no, Sina, you can't do it. But actually there was one person, or even actually more, saying, yes, of course you can do it.
We always cover so much helpful advice in these interviews, and because they're so short, we're already going towards the end of the interview, but I want to make sure that we've heard all the advice you can give. And so my final question to you is there any additional advice you have specifically for women in business that you'd like to pass on?
For sure, yes. So if you're going to ask me for one advice that I would like to pass on, it's definitely give it a try it out, and don't be scared about anything, because there's so much out there we all can experience and try. Or whatever is your dream, do it. Don't hesitate, and don't listen to people who are going to say, no, she can't do it. No, because there are always going to be people who have doubts, and there are always going to be a couple of persons who are going to say to you in the end, I knew you could make it. But along the way, sometimes it wouldn't support you. So whatever is a person's dream or whatever people want to do, everyone should go for it. Because what is super important is the passion behind it and the motivation to do stuff. I mean, if you are really into one activity or one topic, it's okay to work a little longer than 9 to 5. But if it's just about things that you're not going to enjoy, then it's different. So from my personal perspective, I think success is about things you really enjoy, you're passionate about, and things you really want to try out to create an impact, to make a change.
Thank you so much, Sina. I hope everyone can see how much your life has impacted you, the way of thinking, and that they will also take a little bit out of this interview and apply that to their decisions and hopefully just try a few things out. So I'm so glad you came and joined us today here in this interview series. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexandra. It was really nice to talk to you today, and hope that at some times we have the chance to see you on campus.
I hope so too. It's getting better, isn't it? We can just keep our fingers crossed that it will finally work out.
Definitely.
Bye.
Bye.